Are there times when gardening is just a chore? It doesn't seem like it's as much fun anymore, and maybe it feels like it's hard? Well, don't despair. Hi, I'm GardenerScott, and I discuss everything gardening so that you can become a better gardener. And today, I have 25 ideas to help keep gardening fun. I enjoy gardening, and I always encourage you to enjoy gardening as well. That's why I end all of my videos with enjoy gardening, because I think it can be fun. It can take away the stresses and the discomfort of the world and really put you into a place where you can feel good. Feel good about your plants, feel good about yourself, and feel good about the world. Gardening can do that for us. And I have a list that I've developed along with a lot of your help. I put the call out to ask the question, what do you do to keep gardening fun? And I had dozens and dozens of you reply to that question and to give me your ideas. And that's what I'll be sharing today. And even though I do all 25 of these ideas really come from you, viewers like you, who are having the same issues in their garden, but are still finding ways to keep it fun. This first tip was suggested by more people than any other, and it's something that I do every day. Reverse Oregon Trail, Lynn 1, the Mrs. Marvel, Janen Johnson, Dee O'Brien, David Figueroa, Kylie Land, Jonas Becker, Kyle McGee, Authentic Rexy Smith, Laura Bahena, Gerald St. Augustine, and Enriched Refuge all said to listen to podcasts or to music or even to YouTube when you're in the garden. And I'm always doing this. I've been interviewed on a couple podcasts, and I'll put the links below to those to get you listening to how other people approach gardening. And it's great to do that while you're actually in the garden. And I know some of you listen to my live stream on Mondays while you're working in the garden as well. Even though I'm doing it for video, it's essentially a podcast. The idea is to give yourself a little bit extra escape when you're in the garden and maybe learn a little bit in the process. So I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always listening to music. I always have something going on. And occasionally you might have that magic moment where the perfect song comes on or the perfect statement is made in a podcast while you're working on plants. And it just all comes together and really makes gardening more enjoyable. This next one is also great, and it's to try new varieties, new seeds, new plants, new ways of doing things. And Island Mama, Heidi Clark, Jack, Charlie Dillman, Cannon McAfee, Randy Ketchum, Steve Paratori, and Fred Peterson all said this is something they do. It adds excitement to the garden. It adds something new. It makes it a challenge. And along the way, it makes it more enjoyable. In some of my other videos, I talk about just how much fun it is to share your garden, to share it with family, to share it with friends, to share it with neighbors in the garden and outside the garden as you share what you're actually doing. And there's a lot of you that shared this idea with me. Max Field gardens with his younger brother, who's 7 years old. Gerald St. Augustine has a 3-year-old in the garden. I think it's great to have kids outside. Silvero De Niro, Randy Ketchum also agree with sharing the garden with others. Kylie Land finds it comforting to spend together time with her spousal unit. Jack is sharing all of his extra herbs and extra plants grown from cuttings and extra plants grown from seed with neighbors. And Kyle McGee allows his little girl to help pick tomatoes and berries. Fred Peterson says life is about sharing your bounty, your time, your passions. And if you really want to have fun, like little kid fun, well then create another world in your garden. Ohio Housewife 1 says, I'm 50 years old and sometimes I just like to play pretend. Everything from being a giant to an archaeologist to inviting celebrities and world leaders to my garden and what I would like to tell them. Out of Darkness says, I place fairy houses and other little treasures in amongst the foliage for happy little surprises while I'm working in the garden. And that's what I'm going to do with this tree trunk. Part of my garden plan is to carve little doors and little windows and turn this whole area into a fairy town for my grandkids. How fun is that? Megan Philbrick talks to her plants. And I think a lot of us do this. We're just not willing to admit it. Well, Megan, good for you to admit it, because talking to plants really can be fun. John Welsh, the Hybrid 316, and Brian M. all garden with their pets. I do the same thing. You've probably seen Lily in some of my other videos. And Brian says, I love to garden with my dog. She gets as excited as I do in the yard, and we feed off of each other's energy. C.D. James, Moonbeam 888, and Tammy Bolander say, grow lots of flowers with continual blooms. I do the same thing. It's so much fun to come out to the garden, to see flowers blooming, all the new colors throughout the year. Moonbeam and Tammy also say, add fun garden art. Moonbeam 888 says, it's a reminder of the child inside me. And I completely agree. I've got my frogs next to my fountain. I've got my peacock. I have all kinds of fun little whimsical art throughout the garden. Eric Shreve says to enjoy the garden at night. He walks in the garden at midnight to see the beautiful and mysterious places in the moonlight. I think that's awesome. James Kitchen, Laura Bahena say, enjoy the wonder of seeds and plants, just the wonder of watching them grow. Take the time to just look at a seedling and think about the wonder of it all. That will be fun the more and more you do it. Scott McClay, Steve Paratori, and Amanda VHB all suggest doing a garden journal, keeping track of the fun you have in the garden, the things to remember and the things to plan for next year. And looking forward to next year, looking into the future, was an idea suggested by Dennis Shields, Randy Ketchum, Yvonne Ellefson, Enriched Refuge, Donna Muldowney, and Leaf Green LPs. Donna said, the wonderful thing about gardening is that there is always something to look forward to, a new challenge, a new experience, new growth. Linda O. and Silvero De Niro say, enjoy harvesting. I do that all the time. I think that's one of the most enjoyable things. To go out and pick something that you've grown, there's few things that are better, few things that you can enjoy more, few things that are more fun. The Hybrid 316 says, enjoy nature. And you've seen me say this in many videos, a lot of recent videos. They treat it like mini documentaries, to look at the insects, to look at the plants, all those things that you like to watch on TV. Well, you can watch them in your garden in your own time. Silvero De Niro and Kylie Land like to add animals to their garden, the ducks and the chickens, because they're fun to watch too. All of the wildlife around them. Well, whether you bring it in or it comes in naturally, it's all fun. Gardening can be hard, and when it's hard, it often becomes a chore, and when it's a chore, the enjoyment dissipates. So, make it easy. This was suggested by Afflicted Flies to mulch. Mulch takes away so many of the laborious projects we have to do in the garden. Penguin Belly Flop says keep it small. I think it's a great idea. Don't overdo it. Just do what you can maintain and enjoy that process. White's Vet Ploeg says if I consider something to be a chore, I'll ask for help or try to break it into smaller, manageable chunks. That's the way to do it. Jack, Greenlove, Lynn, Michael Del Porto say take pictures and videos to see the progress you're making. I have videos from 30 years ago when I was gardening. I always do a before and an after, and I keep track of the things that are happening along the way. Sometimes diseases, sometimes great harvests, but keep track of it so you can look back and enjoy what happened as you look forward to the future. MMM70 says, celebrate the success. They celebrate every sprout. If something goes right, celebrate it. Take a moment to enjoy what's happening in your garden. Cherna Gast and Nelly Della Vittorio garden when it's cool and when it's beautiful. If you go out to your garden in the sunrise and sunset time of day, not only is it much easier to work, But like going out at midnight, you'll see things that you might not normally see. And especially right now during the heat of the day, the heat of summer, who wants to be outside sweating and working? That's not fun. So do it when it's cool. Greenlove says, do garden experiments. I talk about this in my videos where you do one thing one way and something else a different way and you compare them. Always try something new and experiment with what you're doing in the garden, and you may find something that you really like, and then you can repeat it and continue the fun. 09 Eccles and John Bravo 2 also talk to their garden. But John Bravo says, I named all of my plants. I like to talk to them and encourage them as they grow, especially the tomato plants. They're doing such a good job. And Moonbeam 888 says to remind yourself that you're doing a good job. Others are impressed with my garden. It's usually only me that's so critical and perfectionistic. Well, it's true. Talk to your plants, tell them they're doing good, and in the process, remind yourself that you're doing okay with the gardening as well. Greenlove says to participate in the gardening community. And that's all kinds of things, from gardening clubs to Master Gardener programs to just making comments on YouTube communities like the GardenerScott community. These 25 ideas aren't everything that's out there. So if there's something new that we're not including, tell us about it in the comments below. And Jose Ramos suggests that we let the spiritual nature of gardening lift our spirits. Mike Rupp says, as long as I'm on my knees weeding, I say my prayers, thanking my Creator for the blessings I have received. John Ann Johnson, I do a few things to keep my gardening fun, but the main thing is talk to my dad. He passed away a year and a half ago. We shared a love for the garden, but never seemed to find time to do a big one. This year, I decided to try to make our collective dream come true by building on his little one. So when I'm in the garden, often I'm saying out loud things like, oh, Dad, you'd love this tomato. Or, why is it we can never grow good cucumbers? My way of honoring him and feeling connected. And you know I agree with this one. And it's to just enjoy the garden. Cal 1699, UK Simone 1, Denise Miller, Camel Olzak all suggested the same thing. Reverse Oregon Trail likes to drink morning coffee or sip evening tea in the garden. Steve Paratori does the same thing. Occasionally, he adds an adult beverage. GG Woman says it's such a pleasure to be in the garden. It doesn't seem like work. Heidi Clark says, I enjoy just walking through the garden to see everything growing, eagerly awaiting harvest. Fred Peterson says, sometimes just doing nothing but sitting in the garden, maybe under a shady tree, sipping a cold beer or a glass of wine or tall glass of tea, just listening. And Karen Coyle says, just watching these amazing little living things live has inspired me all over again. I completely agree. And thank you to all of you who offered these suggestions of how you have fun in the garden. And I hope we gave you ideas of how you can have fun in the garden. When things start getting a little down, think about some of these things that you can do to lift your spirits, to have a little bit of fun, and to really enjoy what you're doing. If you gained something from this video, well, consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe to the GardenerScott channel if you haven't already done so. And do be sure to click on the bell so you know when new videos are coming out. I'm GardenerScott. Enjoy gardening.